Hi, I'm Anthony F. Elmore in downtown Memphis on the mighty Mississippi River, bringing you another hot and fiery Black Memphis history lesson. I'm five-time world kickboxing champion Anthony F. Elmore. I'm also Memphis' first independent 35mm theatrical filmmaker. Because of Memphis white supremacy, racism, and black-on-black racism, the city of Memphis robbed me out of my rightful place as the father of independent filmmaking in Memphis, whereas in 1988 I wrote, produced, directed, and starred in Memphis' first independent film titled The Contemporary Gladiator. This story is a semi-autobiographical story of my life, whereas I became the world kickboxing champion. Please note, I am the first person in Memphis history to chronicle Black Memphis history. Even more important, I'm the first person to chronicle Black Memphis history via cinema, whereas I created the website, and you can look it up. It's called blackmemphishistory.com. You see, we teach Black Memphis history via cinema. You see, on August 1st, 2007, there was a movie made about the Stax story titled Respect Yourself. Even if you watch the movie, you would not get a complete understanding as to what happened to Stax or the history of Stax. You see, in the case of me, Anthony F. Elmore, in regards to the Stax story, I can add, or rather I am adding a black, unfiltered dimension to the Stax story. You see, in regards to Black Memphis history, I actually lived and was a part of the Stax story. Clearly, I can provide an insight into Stax that others did not provide, whereas I, as a Black Memphis historian, I have insights into Stax in regards to Black Memphis history that many writers did not include. Let me give you some Black Memphis history. I come to find out that it was George Walker who created the Stax logo of snapping your finger. Whenever you see that, this logo was created by a person who graduated from Melrose, and his name is George Walker. Now let's take this thing a bit further. You see, so we're clear, in the 1960s, Black Memphis history, or Stax Records, is a 1960s history and not a 1950s Black Memphis history. You see, in around 1957, Jim Stewart, a Memphis branch First National Bank employee and sometimes country music fiddler, he recorded a song in his wife's uncle's two-car garage on Burr Road in Memphis using a portable rotary recorder. He and two other partners put out a country and western song called Blue Roses in 1958. They called their new label Satellite Records. Now, wanting to buy his own state-of-the-art Ampex 350 mono tape recorder, Stewart asked his married sister, Estelle Axum, to help. After Estelle had managed to convince her reluctant husband, Everett, to agree to a second mortgage on their home, they bought an Ampex recorder and rented a vacant store in Brunswick, Tennessee. That was the first home of Satellite Records. Now, in regards to the story and history of Stax, the name is well known in Black Memphis history, whose story is untold. See, Stax is untold in Stax history. See, we told you that Satellite Records officially started in a vacant grocery store building in Brunswick, Tennessee. Now, there is a name that most in Memphis has never heard of this singing group. They are called the Welltones. You see, the Welltones were a black singing group that recorded for Satellite Records a song called A Fool in Love that's recorded in 1959. Since Satellite could only managed to distribute copies regionally, Mercury Records contacted Stewart with an offer to take the record nationally. Mercury paid Satellite between $400 and $500 for the rights and re-released the record in September of 1959. However, the record flopped and they received no more money for the song. Now, there is a part of Stax's story that is unknown and untold. You see, if you want to understand Stax, then you must add the names Chips Moman to the story. You see, in regards to me, Anthony Elmore, I had a chance to meet Chips Moman. He had moved back to Memphis during my kickboxing days, and during my kickboxing days, Chips Moman would purchase a row of tables at VIP seats for he and his friends, and he would attend my kickboxing bouts. And I was so honored to meet Chips Moman, because Chips Moman is a historic music producer. See, learn black music history. See, Chips Moman used to be with Stax, but he left Stax because Jim Stewart reneged on making him part owner. Chips Moman went on to start the historic American Sound Studios on Thomas Street. You know, stars like Elvis Presley, B.J. Thomas, Wilson Pickett, Aretha Franklin, Neil Diamond, the Box Tops, and many others recorded at American Sound Studios. They were open from 1964 to 1972. There is no way a white man would just open a recording studio called Stax in a black community. Of course, at the time when they started Stax, it wasn't just a black community at the time, but it was a white community where whites were moving out. You see, guitarist Chips Moman got to know Jim Stewart via gigs in the Memphis nightclub scene and started bringing a few acts to Satellite out at the Brunswick studio. Now, as well as playing guitar and often producing and engineering the resulting tracks. However, all the parties soon realized that if they want to attract new talent and attention, they would have to move to Memphis. And whereas in 1960, it was Chips Moman who found for them, and whereas they closed the deal on the old closed Capitol Movie Theater building at 926 East McLemore. You see, Moman was the moving force in the early days at the McLemore studio. See, often engineering and producing the recordings which now appeared on the new Stax label, because Jim Stewart had retained his employment at the bank and could not only not attend the studio, he could only come to the studio in the evenings. However, as the success of the label blossomed, Jim finally gave up his day job, and it was then that he more often took personal control of the Stax board, more regularly engineering and producing many of the early 60s Stax recordings. Now, let me mention Miss Estelle Axum, who was the co-partner of Stax. She was a school teacher. Estelle Axum gained a major windfall opportunity in Memphis. You see, when they acquired the Capitol Movie Studio, she opened Satellite Records. I remember my parents every week would purchase records at Satellite Records. They would get into drinking and go and buy new records and partying, but Satellite Records was the place to go. Satellite Records did one hell of a business in Memphis because we black people had a place to go and buy our records. See, let me take you back into black Memphis history. You see, the Welltones came to Satellite Records in Brunswick, Tennessee in 1959, thanks to Chips Moman. Now let's get into black Memphis history. You see, in one of our early videos, we told you that the impact of WDIA radio station on shaping the culture in Memphis, Tennessee. We told you also that Satellite Recording produced the Welltones, a song, A Fool in Love, in 1959. You see, Jim Stewart, in promoting the record, met WDIA disc jockey Rufus Thomas while promoting the song A Fool in Love. You see, in the summer of 1960, Rufus Thomas and then his 17-year-old daughter, Carla Thomas, were the first artists recorded at the new studio. The father and daughter did a single called "'Cause I Love You." And this was a regional hit that changed the fortune of the new Stax label. You see, thousands of copies were sold regionally before being picked up by Atlantic Records for national distribution, though through their ATCO, that's Atlantic Company, it's a subsidiary. You see, that year, Stewart and Action changed the label's name to Stax Records. You see, using the letters of their last name, Stewart and Action, and they signed a long-term distribution deal with Atlantic that gave the major label a shot at Stax label releases. Now, let's take you to a little history. You see, Carla Thomas was Stax's first star. Let's get back to Lincoln Wayne Chips Moman. See, Chips Moman produced Carla Thomas's great hit that she wrote called Gee Whiz. Because I Love You. You see, it thus paved the way for Carla Thomas' most greatest single hit, Gee Whiz, Look in His Eyes, reaching number 10 on the pop charts and number 5 on the R&B charts, while she continued to have success on the R&B charts through the 1960s. Now, in regards to rivalries, it was Hamilton High School, ladies and gentlemen, that produced Stax's first star. Now, most of the people who played at Stax actually came from Washington, but it was Carla Thomas who was actually the first Stax star. Now, let me get back to Stax Still Actions. You see, in regards to Stax, as Still Action's son, Packy loved R&B music. See, Packy joined the Royal Spades, a white band that specialized in black music, in 1959. Now, the guitarist and band leader was Steve Crawford. See, Packy, Steve, and their bandmates eagerly helped with the renovation of efforts at the new Stax located at 926 East McLemore Avenue in 1960. You see, the building was the former Capitol Theater, and that Mormon had spotted in a rapidly changing area of Memphis. The neighborhood was in transition at the time, and Booker T. Jones recalled it was still a sort of white neighborhood at first, but it was changing as the white families were moving out. Let me provide you with a bit of Black Memphis history, whereas history tells a different story. When I look at the movie Respect Yourself and stories about Stax, there is a lot of emphasis on the fact that the people at Stax did not see color. And I also noticed in the Stax movie Respect Yourself that the original intent of Satellite Records was to record country songs. I do not believe that. In fact, I explained to you in my videos about WDIA radio, whereas WDIA radio caused a cultural revolution in Memphis, whereas they had 50,000 watts, whereas they could reach 10% of Black America. Now, this story is unknown and untold to most black people when I think of Sun Recording Studios in Memphis. See, we think of 19-year-old Elvis Presley, who recorded at Sun Recording Studios in Memphis in 1954. You see, Sun Recording Studios opened at 706 Union Avenue, January 3rd, 1950. It was originally called Memphis Recording Service, sharing a building with Sun Records. You see, in March of 1951, the song Rocket 88 was recorded at Sun Recording Studios by Ike Turner and Jackie Brimston. Now, look at this poster. Sam Phillips gave the song to Chess Records to release, whereas you see on April 7th and 8th at 1951 at the W.C. Handy Theater in Orange Mound, this song became a top record and called today America's first rock and roll record about the Oldsmobile Rocket 88. The song was recorded at Sun and distributed by Chess Records in Chicago. Now,
right now, I'm gonna do a song I recorded in 1951. The song is titled This song is titled Rocket 88. They said first song, rock and roll song in history, so we hope you enjoyed it. That's it. That's easy. 1, 2, 3. You heard the noise they made, but let me introduce my new Rocket 88. Yes, it's straight, just one way. Everybody likes this Rocket 88. Baby, we riding in style, moving all alone.
Let me take you to 1952, whereas a 16-year-old Merrill student by the name of Johnny London walked from Orange Mound to Sun Records at 706 Union to make some demos, and Sam Phillips was so impressed by this young man that he decided to record him for Sun Records. Now listen very carefully. The first song recorded by Sun Studios was that of 16-year-old African-American Johnny London, who was a student at Melrose High School, and he recorded the song called Driving Slow, and that song reached #1 on some charts. Now, see, I hear the story of how Estelle Axon and Jim Stewart did not see color. We told you that Estelle Axon opened Satellite Records, where you could hear records outside and youth could come in and listen to songs. She did not start this practice. I want you to look at A Swab's, the oldest store on Beale Street in Memphis. It was established as far back as 1876. Today, you do not see such things, but when I was a boy, I would go down on Beale Street and boy, them Jews was everywhere. Not that I'm being racial, but back in the time we were coming up, man, the Jews ran Beale Street, and boy, they knew how to take your money. I had a paper route, and we had this culture wearing one pocket pants. Man, I went downtown and spent $30 on a pair of custom-made pants. I was this singer who was shopping at Lasky Brothers, getting clothes, and we blacks spend so much money on Beale Street, and boy, when you come down there, boy, they were waiting on you, and they knew how to get that money from black folks. You see, there are a few pictures I want you to see. The first is A Swab is the oldest store on Beale Street in Memphis. Now, it was established in 1876. Look at this picture in the window. It says, Latest Blues. We purchase music at A Swab's, we black people. Now, I want you to look at this other picture. Look at this picture. It says, Home of the Blues Records, 107 Beale Street. You see, in 1947, it moved to Main Street, at 147 Main Street, before closing in 1975. It was called Home of the Blues, and it served as the community networking center, you see, for black and white Memphis musicians. You know, Johnny Cash and Elvis Presley and B.B. King and who's who, even Jackie Wilson, various people would come to the Home of the Blues record store. You see, unknown and untold, they established a record label in 1960 called Home of the Blues, and they initiated its own label and began recording mostly blues and R&B musicians at Royal Studios at 1320 South Lauderdale, where it exists today. You see, and also at Sam Phillips Recording. You see, Echo and Fernwood Studios. You see, Willie Mitchell served as the producer for these early sessions for Home of the Blues and was historically the most prominent artist to record at Home of the Blues before he went to High Records in 1961. You see, at the time, the Fire Royales were the biggest name. Other artists, Roy Brown, Prince Gabe, Fred Ford, were credited with 20 compositions on the Home of the Blues label. Now, the label had distribution deals with VJ and ABC Paramount to better promote the music, but their reach was mostly local and regional. Now, however, the draw was global, and they had stars such as Marilyn Monroe, Jackie Wilson, Pat Boone passing through at different times. Johnny Cash was a regular customer when he was recording that song, and in 1957, heartbreak country song "Home of the Blues" was titled thusly as a tribute to the record store. You see, Cash also made a tribute to Home of the Blues during his Rock and Roll Hall of Fame acceptance. You see, in regards to a record store, Popular Tunes, and which was called also nicknamed Pop Tunes, in 1946 they opened up, calling itself the original record store. You see, Popular Tunes lived up to its billing. You see, founder Joe Krugy and John Navarez opened the store in 1946, selling records wholesale. They sold records retail, and they were the ones who owned the jukebox trade. You see, demo records lined the shelves with turntables at the end of each row, allowing customers to hear records before they decide to buy. You see, the store's success led to the founding, ladies and gentlemen, of High Records in 1957, headquarters next door to High's. Next door was High's headquarters, right next to the store Pop Tunes on Popular Tunes on Popular Avenue. You see, which their most famous group to start was the Bill Black Combo, and later on Willie Mitchell and Al Green recorded High Records. Now, High Records was started or was financed by who? Popular Tunes, who sold the records. That's how High Records got started. It got started by Popular Tunes because the owner of Popular Tunes had the money, they knew the business, and they got into the record business. Now, what we know at Stax Records started in 1960 when Mrs. Estelle Axel opened the Satellite Music Store. Now, she actually copied from other stores who had also started record labels. Pop Tunes were wholesalers who serviced jukeboxes and sold records to others who sold records. I do not care what the experts tell you. When you look at this image of Stax and you see Satellite Records there, that is not what I remember. I grew up going where my family, my parents grew up going and shopping at Satellite Records. Satellite Records was always across the street on the south side of the street. Now, it may have started off at this particular location, but when we grew up, Satellite Records was on the south side of the street and not the way it's portrayed. Now, let's take this thing just a little bit further. You see, listen to people. If anyone is going to tell a story of Stax, you got to tell the story of Jerry Wexler. You see, Jerry Wexler was perhaps the most influential Jew in regards to black music than any other person in America. If you want to learn Black Memphis history and learn black history, you should learn about Jerry Wexler. You see, as a writer for Billboard magazine in 1949, he coined the term rhythm and blues to replace the previous label. It was called race music. You see, on Billboard magazine, they used to call black music race music on the magazine's black music. Now, the change was significant because it shifted the focus from the racial categorization to more of a generic specific description. Wexler's influence extended beyond mere technology. He was a legendary record man, music producer in an ageless history. You see, his impact on the music industry was immense. He helped introduce white audiences to a royalty of R&B, including artists like Ray Charles, Big Joe Turner, Laverne Baker, and the 1950s later as co-head of Atlantic Records, he championed artists like Otis Redding, Aretha Franklin, Wilson Pickett, further solidifying the genre's prominence. So when we talk about rhythm and blues, we owe a debt of gratitude to Jerry Wexler for shaping the way we perceive and appreciate the vibrant music tradition. Now, Memphis should know Jerry Wexler served as co-head of Atlantic Records from 1953 to 1975 with his partner Ahmet Ertegun. You see, whereas they had this little country white folk producing black music, and the company was called Satellite Records, and whereas in 1961 they changed the name to Stax Records. You see, Jim Stewart signed a national distribution deal with Atlantic Records. Now, the agreement allowed Atlantic to distribute Stax music more widely. It was not learned until after the death of Otis Redding that shockingly it was discovered that the contract signed by Jim Stewart gave Atlantic Records ownership of the entire Stax catalog, the Stax Votes recording. Just think, there was Stax, and there was a sister company, Vote Records. From the time Stax started, from Rufus and Carla Thomas, Booker T and the MGs, the Barcades, Otis Redding, Sam and Dave, and all the music owned and recorded at Stax, Jim Stewart did not look at the contract because he did things on a handshake and he did it with trust. And Jerry Wexler put in the contract that all of the records were owned by Atlantic Records. And when Atlantic Records sold to Warner, Atlantic Records became wholly owned subsidiary of Warner Brothers, Seven Arts, and now part of the Warner Music Group. We're talking about Time Warner because they didn't own anything. Can you imagine the heartbreak that of all the work and all the years of Stax, they got screwed out of everything. Now, let's get back to 1960 at the start of Stax. Now, we told you Rufus and Carla Thomas recorded the song "Cause I Love You." You see, now, this is what happened. They needed a baritone sax player, and there was a 16-year-old Washington High School student named Booker T. Jones. This is how Booker T. Jones tells the story. He says, well, I was in the 11th grade, and my friend David Porter knew that Rufus Thomas and his daughter Carla were recording one day, and I guess they had requested a baritone sax part of his song. And David thought of me. David drove over to the high school and came up with some type of hall pass and got me out of class, and somebody came up with the band director's car keys and the instrument room. So we went down to get the baritone sax out of the instrument room, and we borrowed the car of the band director, and over to the Stax we went. And through the door, there I was. I actually had a paper route. That was my job in the afternoon. I convinced them to try me out on the piano and eventually the organ. And eventually I played on the organ on the William Bell song that they like the part, "You don't miss your water until your well run dry." And on one of these sessions, so after I played that part, I had a job at Stax. Here I am in 11th grade. Now, it was unreal. I would rush to get out of school, get my paper stone, and get over to Stax. That was my thrill every day, to get and go there and play music until 10, 11 o'clock every night. Well, yeah, the band needed a name. And when we recorded Green Onions, Al Jackson, the drummer, he said, what we call it. And he said, well, Booker T and the what? And they just came up with the MG. You see, this guy who was the engineer on the song. Chips Moorman was driving a little British Leyland sports car. It was called MG. And I don't know if you ever seen those. He had to park outside and he used to do tricks with it and everything in the snow, you know. And so he looked out of the window and the name was Booker T and the MGs, and everybody started laughing. You see, this is how it started with Booker T and the MGs. Now, he goes on further. This is what Booker T and the MGs said. This is what Booker T Jones said about Otis Redding. You see, and I remember the day he pulled up with Johnny Jenkins and the Pine Toppers. This was the name of the group he worked for. Now, they basically came in and sat around and waited, and they did their demo for Stax. And after they did the demo, Otis asked, could he please sing a song, which was a little inappropriate, but everyone was tired, but they allowed him. Jim and Steve and the rest of us allowed him to sing a song. And that song was These Arms Are Mine.
Been loving you too long to stop now. You were down and you want to be free. My love is growing stronger as you become a habit to me. I've been loving you too long, and I don't want to stop now.
So everyone was so moved by that. At that moment, he became Otis Redding. The company had acquired Albert King, and I was assigned to him to be his producer, and so we needed music for him. At that time, my partner was William Bell. My writing partner wrote the words, and I wrote the music in my den one night. That was one of the greatest moments in the studio as far as being thrilled with the piece of music. I was very, very happy the way it turned out. See, the feeling, you know, the real blues, you know, done by real people. It was Albert King from East St. Louis, you know, the left-handed guitar player who was just such the kind of so electric, so intense, so serious about his music. Involved with the lyrics and with the song. You know, he just lost himself in the music.
If it wasn't for bad luck, wouldn't have no kind of luck. If it wasn't for real bad luck, I wouldn't have no luck at all. Wine and women is all I crave. A big red woman gonna carry me to my grave. Born on a bad side, been down since I began to crawl. If it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have no luck at all.
It's kind of hard to describe. You see, the fact that we were interracial, I like to call it not too a well-kept secret that we were an interracial group. You see, I know, you know, when we were playing music, that nobody really cared that we were interracial. You see, I think they cared about the music. I think white and black youth both didn't pay much attention to the racial aspect of it. You know, we couldn't travel. When we would travel without having the two of us to go get food, and sometimes the two were myself and Al. Sometimes those two were Steve and Duck, but the other two would have to check into the hotels, and we sneak into the room. You see, we were always in somebody else's territory, no matter where we were. But Steve and Duck and the all-white members of Stax began to love soul food and think they preferred to hang out at our restaurant, so we really didn't have a problem as long as the rest of the world didn't have a problem with us. What I want to do, I want to close this story about Stax. You see, in 2019, I wrote, produced, directed, and narrated the movie 200 Years of Black Memphis History. And I'm going to close the true story as why Stax folded, and I will show scenes of this movie, and I will close with showing you scenes from the film Respect Yourself. It was a planned strategy in Memphis to destroy Stax. Let's take a look at my film, scenes of my film about Stax. It's called 200 Years of Black Memphis History. While the world knows about the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Memphis on April 4th, 1968, Memphis, Tennessee had a concurrent assassination that is not known to the world thanks to racism, white supremacy, and colonization. Unknowingly to black people in Memphis, black Memphians are the victims of colonization. Memphis boasts about the new Stax Museum, but none or very few words are mentioned about the targeted assassination of Stax Records in Memphis. Also, white racists were able to neutralize the most significant black leader to emerge in Memphis, Tennessee since Robert R. Church Jr. of Memphis. In Memphis, Tennessee, we African Americans have a museum and whites have a monument in Graceland. Just as Robert R. Church Jr. was run out of Memphis, the nearest African American model of creating economic equality came in the effort and the spirit of Al Bell, a black man who became the owner of Stax Records. Al Bell became a black man who could have created economic equality in Memphis. 1975 is when Stax was forced into involuntary bankruptcy. The company masters were valued Price Waterhouse at $67 million.
We are not going to argue with you about the merits of your antitrust suit. It's just that we have more time than you and more money than you. And I said, sir, there's no question that you have more money than me. But time, I question, because it's a matter of principle. So you can consider this the beginning of World War III.
It was Al Bell who guided Stax to not only a miraculous revival, it was Al Bell who made Stax best known as to how we remember Stax. Now, let me tell you about the miracle at Stax. Under Al Bell, Stax became not only one of the nation's largest black-owned companies, it was because of Al Bell that Stax became Soulsville, USA. In May of 1969 alone, Stax released 27 albums and 30 singles. This was unprecedented. While Stax lost their catalog, it was L. Bell who understood black music and who built the new Stax. It was under the vision of L. Bell that we got in Isaac Hayes. See, Isaac Hayes was a songwriter and a behind-the-scenes man. Isaac's first album was a flop. It was L. Bell who encouraged Isaac Hayes to be creative. In fact, when Isaac Hayes did the 18-minute version of By the Time I Get to Phoenix, Isaac was just playing around. Now, there was never such a thing as an 18-minute song. It was L. Bell and Isaac Hayes who wrote the song Hyperbolic Espialidocious. I cannot even say the word. It was on Hot Butter Soul album that not only changed Stax, but Hot Buttered Soul turned Isaac Hayes into a folk hero when he won the Grammy and Emmy Award for the black movie Shaft. Now, let me explain to you why whites and racism put Stax out of business. You see, in 1972, when Stax rented the stadium in Los Angeles, it was a joke that a little black company in Memphis, Tennessee was renting a stadium. Not only did they rent the stadium, they went into the movie making business with a movie called Watch Stax. See, Stax stopped being a joke when this little company in Memphis, Tennessee, black owned, brought out 112,000 black people to a stadium in Los Angeles. They made a movie whereas they could reach millions of black people. There was Jesse Jackson with a dashiki and a big fro, and they sang the black national anthem, displaying the black power sign, and black people talking about black pride. There was Isaac Hayes, the black Moses that was there. Oh my goodness. You see, it was almost overnight, whereas Isaac Hayes, who could now purchase a home in Chickasaw Garden, the wealthiest white neighborhood in Memphis. Now, please pardon my language, but them white folk got together and they said, we got to stop these niggas. If these niggas are not stopped, they are going to be as rich as white people. L. Bell was not a normal black man from Memphis whose mind was colonized by the Memphis white racist culture. See, we explained to you that in Memphis, Tennessee, white people got rid of Robert R. Church and Dr. Martin, who owned the black baseball team. These guys were businessmen. They promoted equality and black economic development. You see, this is the white rule for blacks in Memphis. You see, blacks who were allowed to have money under Crump, they were not allowed to use their wealth for black power and black economic development that would be threatening to white people. You see, Stax turned into a powerhouse for black economic development. White people conspired using the IRS and the system to vilify and falsely charging L. Bell with bank fraud and trumped up charges. Stax employed over 200 people and they were changing the lives of black people in Memphis. L. Bell is one of Memphis's greatest heroes who defined black power and economic equality.
This guy who they just brought in, he said, Al, I don't want you to think I'm a redneck from Georgia. I looked at him and I said, and I don't want you to think that I'm a nigger from Arkansas. So what are you talking about?
Union planters stopped lending money to Stax. accusing them of bank fraud, and with no money coming from CBS, the squeeze was on.
You had a bank who wanted to destroy the record company. You had people that just hated that all these blacks were having all this success in Memphis, Tennessee, with all these big, pretty houses and pretty cars.
Isaac Hayes is driving around in a custom-made Cadillac that cost more at the time than many white folks' houses did. Carla Thomas or another artist going to Julius Lewis and purchasing a fur coat. Cash.
In my life, I'd wake up with toilet tissue in the trees in my yard, all kinds of threats on the phone, being told by a gentleman that was sent to me by Matthews, said, listen, tell Al, why don't he go down to the Mississippi River Bridge and jump off that bridge and make it easier for everybody. They started taking the actions that would put us out of business.
Very easily conclude, I suppose, at this point that the future for Stax would look dim. But that is not the case. We know the facts. We have not given up, and we will pursue legally whatever is necessary in order to restore Stax and bring it from a corporate point of view back into the possession of its rightful owners.
After the close of Stax, and after some time had passed, several years, I would drive back to Memphis, Tennessee, and park across the street from 926 East McLemore and look at that vacant lot and see the weeds there, building gone, and I would cry. I would cry, and the tears would run profusely. All that we had worked for and lived for, there was not even a symbol of that in place. It's like someone had tried to wipe all of that off the face of the earth.
Of course, Al Bell is correct that someone was trying to wipe off everything that he did off the face of the earth. You see, Black people's history proves this to be true. See, Memphis is the most populated black city of black people in America, whereas no one has chronicled Black Memphis history. I, Anthony Elmore, was the first to do so. In regards to Black Memphis history, only one person has accomplished what Al Bell attempted to achieve, and that is economic equality for black people. See, the story of Robert R. Church Sr. goes untold in Memphis. He is the only black man in Memphis history that achieved economic equality. In 1910, Memphis elected E.H. Crump, who swore to take Memphis back to the days of glory, and he did. He ran all black leaders who challenged him out of Memphis. E.H. Crump allowed black leaders to attain wealth under the condition that they follow the Crump rule. You see my video on Dr. J. E. Walker, who opened Universal Life Insurance Company and Tri-State Bank. He built thousands of homes for black people in Memphis. The first rule of Crump is, number one, you cannot use your wealth for black empowerment.
Shaft. Hotter than Bond, cooler than Bullet.
Somebody got the bright idea of producing a black film with a black director, a black leading actor, and a black composer. They wanted me to do the music.
Al Bell took Stax money and empowered black people. Second, the Crump rule is that you do not create businesses that conflict with white businesses. See, Al Bell entered the movie industry.
The Black National Anthem.
He used his skills to gain not just black business. However, Al Bell looked to gain white business. The third rule, in common sense terms, stay in your lane. You see, Dr. Walker never preached social equality. He could have moved into any white community in Memphis. He had the money to do so, but he practiced and he honored segregation. You see, in regards to the Stax Music Academy, an anonymous donor put up $6 million. They built Stax without the Black Revolution or Black Power movement or another Black Moses or a chance of a black economic powerhouse or big dreamers. Memphis killed the man who had a dream. There's something to learn about Al Bell. Al Bell is the greatest black leader in the 20th century who built Stax, one of the largest black companies in American history. I'm Anthony F. Elmore in downtown Memphis on the mighty Mississippi River, bringing you another hot and fiery Black Memphis history lesson.